Hey y'all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at another pair of ANC headphones from Edifier. These are the newest WH700NBs, and they're selling for sub $50, so they're very cost effective. Specs are also pretty competitive, including large 40mm dynamic drivers, and they also have a long battery life of over 45 hours with ANC turned on, and with ANC turned off, you get a whopping 68 hours of continuous music listening, not to mention a quick 10-minute charge will provide you up to 8 additional hours of listening time. So very strong endurance. These can connect to 2 devices simultaneously, including a phone and also, say, a computer if you want to switch between those audio profiles when on the go. They also are compatible with their companion app for some additional controls, including a gaming mode for extra low latency. The headphones also come in 4 different colors, which are relatively clean and attractive, including not only black and white, but also more muted blue and gray as well. So the slogan here is you can get pretty premium sound in ANC without having to spend an arm or a leg. That being said, areas where this still reflects in the budget price would be having standard Bluetooth codecs like SBC and AAC. It doesn't have LDAC or lossless hi-fi codec support on these. Other members of their current catalog can have high-res audio certification, but again, you have to shell out just a little bit more. So in the packaging, very simple, we have just the WH700NBs. You also find a quick user guide and also a USB Type-C cable for charging, and that is it. So another area where maybe some cost was cut would not be including a hard shell or even a soft folio case. That would have been nice to see, but it is what it is. It's more of a premium touch, I suppose. Now the styling of these are understated, but they don't look too cheap for what they are. It still has a pretty decent heft to them, especially with a very generous memory foam padding for the cushions here that do feel quite soft and snug, including the headband also feels sufficiently padded as well. There is no Edifier logo on the top though. However, we do have a metal accent for the actual hinge as you're rotating it and extending the headband outwards, so the moving parts at least are reinforced with alloy. Otherwise, on the bottom here we have all of the I/O, including on the middle just a power key that you can long hold for a few seconds to turn it on. Afterwards, when paired, you can tap once to play and pause music, and also change the volume/skip tracks. There's also a Bluetooth pairing key that you can tap on for a few additional seconds, some additional microphones, and also the USB Type-C port there for charging. So what is missing on these would be a standard 3.5mm aux jack, and that means these are pretty much strictly Bluetooth headphones. You can technically convert them into wired if you have a USB Type-C to 3.5mm cable, but note that that particular accessory is not included in the box. One other quick thing to mention would be there is no dedicated ANC switch on these particular models either. So if you turn the headphones on, it will also be turning Bluetooth on. What I typically like to see is a dedicated ANC mode in cases where you might want to just be sleeping or just resting in a little bit more silence without necessarily listening to music. By making the Bluetooth as well as the active noise cancellation modes separate from one another, but on this model as well it is combined. So if you turn it on, that's the only way to also activate ANC. Regardless, from a construction and build perspective, I will say that they are quite impressive for this low cost. Again, all the hinges here are reinforced in alloy and doesn't feel cheap at all. It actually feels quite comfortable too when I'm wearing them. And even for a few hours of music listening, didn't feel too stressful or weighing me down too much. There was a little bit of heat built up on the cushion or the pads here, but it was still breathable enough that I didn't feel like it was too overwhelming. Enjoying a film as well as listening through an entire album wasn't too problematic in terms of comfort. The companion app called Edifier Connect is the same one that we've seen on their other products, so it's quite familiar, but it's easy to use. Once you have Bluetooth turned on and paired to your phone, you can see the battery percentage remaining, as well as more quickly toggle through some shortcuts, including turning on ANC versus the ambient transparency mode, where you can also amplify the sound even more or reduce the intensity yourself. So this mode will use the microphones to again increase the external sounds, so you can have a conversation, for example, or be aware of your surroundings without removing the headphones. That's kind of the opposite of ANC, although on this mode you won't find additional features like an adaptive intelligent auto mode. There's also no additional intensity that you can turn higher or lower, so there's just one option, but again, pretty much par for the course for a budget pair of headphones, I would say, and still working well enough. You can turn everything off or cycle into the next carousel for some basic EQs, including a classic mode, as well as a pop-centric mode, classical/acoustic, and also a rock profile as well, that slightly changes the sound signature. But if you are looking for the granularity of custom EQ, you may have to look elsewhere or download another app to tweak some of those frequency spectrums. You also won't find a sound ID or personalized hearing test mode on this model, but again, pretty much par for the course, I would say, for this budget price range. Now, you can also toggle on advanced settings to change things like the controls, meaning if you tap on the multifunction key currently, it will cycle through these features in a carousel loop. But if you don't really like to use the ambient sound mode, you can actually turn that off, so it only provides the other options when you're tapping on that button. So a little bit of granularity can be adjusted there, as well as how long you want the headphones to then turn off after timing out. A final swipe over also gives you the low latency gaming mode, which can be quite useful if you're watching videos as well, that reduces the lag between the video and the audio. That being said, on headphones in general, as compared to true wireless buds, latency typically doesn't become too big of a problem to begin with, since the left and right sides are already connected to each other. It's just one single connection with your phone or computer. But this just makes it even a little bit better, and they claim less than 0.6 milliseconds of delay, and certainly in my testing, I was able to watch some clips on YouTube and Netflix. It didn't feel like it was an uncomfortable experience. Mouths as well as sounds, if I'm hearing words, are still synced together quite well. Edifier continues to provide a widget that you can add onto your home screen if desired that allows you to turn on and off some of those quick settings. Moving into audio quality and performance, I will say that it definitely punches above its weight when it comes to music clarity. There's very little distortion or static in the background, so the audio is clean, and also if you are within a range of around the same room, 10 meters, 33 feet, I didn't encounter too many dropped connections either, so the signal strength was generally quite good. The large 40mm drivers also pack sufficient bass, in my opinion, for things like pop as well as EDM. You still have a pretty satisfying thump. I wouldn't say they're necessarily the heaviest that I've ever come across, but activating the rock as well as the pop profiles does tend to crank it up a slight level. I would say that bass heads may not find these to be the most extreme that they've ever come across, but should still be mostly satisfied. Otherwise, mids and trebles also have good enough detail, I would say. As you're listening to vocals and instrumentals, it provides sufficient comfort that it sucks you into the music, and again, good enough details for a pair of headphones in this price range. In fact, I would argue that it even tries to compete with certain models that are maybe slightly more expensive, such as some sub $100 ANC headphones that I've heard actually have similar, if not a touch weaker, audio performance. So this is already very good when it comes to just casual music listening in general. That being said, if you are an audiophile and you're looking out for the most detailed, nuanced sound possible, then obviously you would want to look in the direction of Edifier's other offerings, which are more flagship grade, perhaps having even more drivers stacked inside that can squeeze through even more detail on extreme segments, including trebles and perhaps even more punchy bass. Now, active noise cancellation was also pretty effective, I would say. It's not to the same extent, again, as some of the true flagships, including Bose's Quiet Comfort line, as well as some Sony ANC headphones as well, do tend to be maybe a little bit stronger at times. That being said, for, again, around 80% of the time, these are good enough. Engine sounds, lower frequency noises get repressed quite well, and because of the larger cushion design that is naturally isolating an amount of noise just by wearing them passively, the strength is still going to be stronger than most TWS true wireless buds in a similar price range, which are doing most of the work digitally by contrast. So in general, for things like commute, these are already satisfactory. So that is more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of the Edifier WH700NBs. These are a pretty basic no-frills pair of wireless headphones, really representing what you can expect out of a value-oriented pair here in 2023, which is to say solid enough sound, pretty good comfort, again, if you aren't looking for hi-fi grade headphones, but just something casual to use every day or take when commuting and on the road. That being said, again, a few minor quirks here and there, including a lack of a direct aux jack to convert these to wired headphones would be nice, as well as a dedicated ANC and Bluetooth functionality, are all things I typically like to see, but again, it's easier to forgive at this price range, I would say. You can learn more details if interested in the links down below, but for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Edifier WH700NBs.